Let both of them grow together, the farmer in today's gospel says, referring to the wheat and the weeds. I wish I'd known this parable when I was a kid and my dad sent me out to pull weeds in the backyard. I could have said, hey, Dad, Jesus says, but I don't think he would have agreed with that. Just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Is that what you do? You let weeds grow in your garden? Just let them sit there side by side with what it is you planted? My guess is it didn't make a lot of sense to the workers the farmer's speaking to either. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I have a hard time letting the wheats and the weeds grow together. For me, it's pretty simple. Maybe it is for you as well. Wheat is good, weeds are bad. Save the wheat, pull the weeds. Wheat feeds and nourishes life. Weeds choke out life and take up space. And more than once, I've been on my knees in the backyard pulling weeds out of my garden. At least I think they were weeds. I don't know what they were. I didn't plant them. And maybe that's the point Jesus is making. We often don't, though. And sometimes it's really difficult to tell the difference between weeds and wheat, whether it's in our backyard garden, the garden of our own life, or the garden of someone else's life. And I wonder what's growing in the garden of your life today. What have you labeled as wheat and good and you want to keep? And what have you labeled as weeds, something to be gotten rid of, something bad, something wrong? Have you ever looked back on your life and realized you were mistaken about what was wheat and what was a weed? Or maybe you've looked at them and over time you changed your mind. Sometimes it's just not as clear cut as we think it is or we want it to be. Today's parable reminds me of this ancient Chinese story about a farmer. It goes something like this. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who had one horse. He depended upon that one horse for all of his farming work. One day, the horse ran away. The neighbors heard about it and came to the farmer that evening and said, "Oh, that's so very unfortunate." And the farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's horse returned and brought with it 7 wild horses. The neighbors heard about it and rushed and said, "That is such great news. How wonderful." And the farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown, fell to the ground, and broke his leg. The neighbors heard about it and came over. "Oh, that's terrible, isn't it?" And the farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the army, the conscriptionists of the army, were coming through town and stopping at every place. They stopped at the farmer's place to take his son into the army, but when they saw he had a broken leg, they wouldn't take him. And the neighbor said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And the farmer said, "Maybe." Is that weeds growing in your garden? Maybe. Or is it weeds? Maybe. Is that wheat in somebody else's garden that you see? Maybe. Or is it a pile of weeds? Maybe. I wish life was as simple as weeds and wheat. I wish it was easy as getting on my knees and getting rid of what I don't want and keeping what I want. But it's not. Never has been. And the truth is, I have wheat and weeds growing in the garden of my life. I suppose you do too. And more I've come to see that my life is an intertwined, mixed, and complicated baby. But it's always easy and tempting to label and to judge and to categorize events, experiences, people, even ourselves, as either good wheat or bad weeds. Listen to the rhetoric of our politicians. Read the posts on social media. Think about your own opinions and judgments. And my guess is what you see is a categorization of wheat and weeds. We're usually pretty darn sure about which is which. At least I am, aren't you? It's what the workers have done in today's parable. They want to pull some weeds, and they're sure that they can tell the difference between wheat and weeds. But the weeds referenced here aren't just ordinary everyday weeds. It's a particular weed called zizania. It's sometimes known as false weeds or darnel. It looks like wheat, and it grows in the same places as wheat. It grows right alongside wheat, and its roots intertwine under the earth with the roots of the real wheat. And you can't tell the difference until both plants mature. Until then, it's just a maybe. It's why the farmer tells the workers, in gathering the weeds, you would also uproot the wheat. Let them both grow together. The farmer knows that with maturity, the workers will see the difference between the wheat and the weeds. And I'm not talking only about the maturity of the plants. I'm also talking about the maturity of the workers, you and me, our maturity as well. And haven't there been times in your life when you thought to yourself, or you said, I wish I knew then what I knew now? With maturity, our seeing changes. We have the benefits of more experience, the deeper understanding, the greater wisdom. And the world today sure could use some of that. So could I. How about you? So what would it be like, and what would it take to live more in the maybe of life than in the separation of weeds and wheat? And when I speak about maybe, I'm not talking about being indecisive. I'm talking about maybe as an openness, as a trusting the not knowing. What if maybe is what holds open the door to the future? And what if the future is always better? Not because it necessarily will be, but because it might be. Maybe it will be better. Maybe keeps us from claiming to know more than we really do know, or more than we can know. It's slow to make a final judgment or conclusion. It asks us to be willing to be surprised, to live with curiosity, to open ourselves to new discoveries. Maybe offers another as well as ourselves the benefit of the doubt. It allows time for growth and for change, for possibilities we never imagined possible. Maybe keeps our heart soft and our eyes open. Maybe is a field of possibilities and hope for every one of us. Maybe it's a field of wheat. Maybe it's a field of weeds. Maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe tomorrow will be worse. I don't know. But I want to show up and find out, don't you? I want to give life a chance. I want to give others a chance. I want to give you a chance. I want to give myself a chance. I want to give God a chance. I don't want to be too quick to assume that I know who or what are weeds and who or what are wheat. So what if you and I and this parish were to live in the tension between the weeds and the wheat? Is it wheat or is it weed? Yeah, maybe. And what would it be like to offer your maybe to the world? To offer a maybe to yourself, to those in your life with whom you're in relationship. I wonder what possibilities and hope might arise from that maybe. When you look at the garden of your life today and you see the things you've labeled as wheat and the things you've labeled as weeds and the stuff you have no idea what it is, what's the maybe that you need today? To whom do you need to offer a maybe? And what if God is always, every day, day after day after day, offering us the maybe of divine life? Never willing to make a final judgment or conclusion, holding the door open, teaching us to live in the maybe. To speak maybe is our deepest prayer, is the longing of our heart. Maybe, maybe, maybe. Holy words for holy people.